Hey everyone. Tonight we step into a war that didn't roar with gunfire, it rumbled with engines. The air reeked of diesel, sweat, and rain-soaked canvas. These weren't heroes in medals, but shadows behind the front, hauling the lifeblood of war through mud and thunder. Each mile was a gamble. Each sunrise another order to keep driving when sleep, fear, and exhaustion had already won. You won't hear of glory here, only gears grinding through the dark, coffee gone cold on the dashboard, and laughter drowned by rain. This is the story of men who kept Patton's army alive when bullets ran out and hope ran thin. If forgotten wars and unseen heroes keep you curious, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you have kept driving? Knowing the world's fate rode in your truck now. Take a breath and follow me into the storm. You are there, in the damp, cool embrace of southern England, 1944. The canvas tent, heavy with the night's persistent rain, sags just above your head, a soft, rhythmic patter on its stretched fabric. It's still dark, a deep, pervasive pre-dawn gloom, but a shrill, piercing whistle cuts through the quiet, an insistent summons that pulls you from the shallow depths of sleep. Your eyes, gritty with the memory of too few hours of rest, slowly adjust to the faint glow of a distant lantern. The air, thick and heavy, carries a distinct aroma, the earthy scent of wet soil, the sharp tang of tobacco from the last cigarette shared hours ago, and, most prominently, the familiar, comforting, yet slightly acrid smell of burning diesel, already being stirred into life by the first early risers. It's the smell of purpose, of industry, of the relentless march towards a new day, regardless of what the heavens decide to unleash. You feel the chills seep into your bones as you push yourself up, the rough wool of your uniform a familiar scratch against your skin. You were once a gas station clerk. A quiet life in Chicago, far from this damp field, far from the roar of distant guns. Now, you are a soldier. Yes, but more specifically, you are a truck driver. Part of a company where the faces around you, in the dim light, are mostly black men. Their quiet strength a bedrock you've come to rely on. They are the unseen backbone, the drivers, the mechanics. Their names unlikely to be etched onto monuments or celebrated with medals. Yet their work is as vital as any frontline charge. Your world, in these moments before the true day begins, revolves around the steadfast presence of your GMC CCC KW 2.5-ton truck. You can almost feel its presence, even before you see it. A beast of an engine, a 270 cubic inch heart with 104 horsepower, waiting patiently in the mud. Orders, sharp and clear, echo through the lingering fog, cutting through the murmurs of awakening men. You're not infantry, you're transportation. The words are a mantra, a constant reminder of your distinct, critical role. You begin the ritual, tightening the canvas straps that secure your precious cargo, wiping away the fresh dew and rain from the dashboard. A simple act of preparation that holds so much meaning. And then, with a deep breath, you ignite the sleeping engine. It coughs, sputters, then catches, settling into a deep, resonant rumble, a vibration that travels through the steering wheel, up your arms, and into your chest. It's a sound that promises motion, life, and forward momentum. Beneath the growing symphony of engines, beneath the noise and the shouted commands, a profound truth settles in your gut, the path to victory, to the eventual silencing of the guns, begins not with a bang, but with the turning of these very wheels. Without you, without these trucks, this vast, hungry war machine would simply starve, stranded and silent. You are the hidden pulse, the quiet rhythm of survival, pushing through the relentless rain and the endless gray dawn. The making of a red ball trucker, you soon discover, is less about polished parades and more about the visceral reality of mud, grinding gears, and the occasional heartfelt curse. The training grounds are not fields of gentle green, but churned-up quagmires, where the earth seems to actively conspire against your progress. The instructors, veterans themselves, don't just speak, they bark, their voices cutting through the persistent drizzle, through the groan of machinery. If it breaks, one snarls, his face a mask of hardened experience. Fix it in the dark, because the enemy doesn't wait for sunrise, and neither does the front. Those words become etched into your memory, a silent promise to the relentless demands of the road ahead. You learn the brutal, intricate dance of double clutching, a rhythm of timing and instinct that seems alien at first. Your foot finds the clutch, then the accelerator, then the clutch again, feeling for that perfect moment, that sweet spot where gears slide into place with a satisfying, powerful engagement rather than a jarring, metallic protest. It's a skill honed through repetition, through countless stalls and grinding errors, until it becomes second nature, an extension of your own body, a language spoken between man and machine. But the true test, the one that grips you with a cold, insistent fear, is driving at night, under the absolute, suffocating blanket of blackout conditions. There are no headlights, no reassuring beams cutting through the gloom, only two faint cat eyes, small, shrouded lights, offer a sliver of visibility, a ghostly presence that you must follow, or risk veering off into the unknown, into the darkness that swallows all. The world shrinks to these two tiny points of light, and the periphery becomes a terrifying void. The training is relentless, a continuous cycle of breaking down and building up. You dig your truck out of mud pits, the thick, heavy earth clinging to tires, sucking at your boots, your muscles aching with every heave of the shovel. You patch a fan with a piece of wire, improvising, adapting, making do with what you have. You learn to change a tire in the freezing rain, your fingers numb, your breath clouding in the icy air, the lug nuts stubbornly resisting your efforts. Yet you persevere, knowing that failure isn't an option when lives depend on your ability to move. Sleep, when it comes, is a stolen comfort, found inside the vibrating cabin of your truck, the engine's distant hum a strange lullaby, wrapped in an oil-scented jacket that carries the day's grime and effort. The smell becomes part of you, a badge of your new identity. In the dark, between shifts or during a brief, cold supper, jokes echo, gallows humor, the kind you tell when fear, rather than retreating, transforms into a dull, routine companion. It's a way to acknowledge the terror without succumbing to it, a release valve for the relentless pressure. You hear another driver, Davis, perhaps, murmur in the quiet moments, a sentiment you often share. Someday, they'll realize who kept this war alive. It's a quiet defiance, a testament to their unseen labor. You didn't just learn to drive during those brutal months. You learned to endure, to survive. to become one with the noise of the engine, the slosh of mud, and the constant thrumming rhythm of your own survival. This unseen front was forging you, preparing you for the true crucible ahead, where the stakes would be immeasurably higher and the roads far more treacherous. The day you roll onto Normandy feels less like an arrival and more like an immersion into a living nightmare. It is June 1944, and the air itself seems to crackle with the lingering echoes of immense violence. You feel the lurch, a jarring shift as the ramps of the landing craft drop into the churning, gray surf. The cold seawater washes over the tires, instantly soaking your boots, and the truck, your familiar behemoth, groans as it powers forward, straining against the sand. The sky above is a grim canvas painted with plumes of smoke, mingling with the spray of the ocean, and the sharp, metallic whistle of shrapnel cutting through the air is a constant, terrifying reminder of the battle that has just raged. The beaches are not merely chaotic. They are a sprawling, horrifying tableau of war's aftermath. Everywhere you look, there is a frantic, desperate energy. Bulldozers roar, pushing aside the detritus of battle, carving paths through the wreckage. Bodies, stark and silent, lie testament to the brutal cost of the invasion. Shouting military police, their faces grim, wave you forward, their commands lost in the cacophony. Burning jeeps, their metal still glowing red, cast an eerie, flickering light, their fires a grim beacon in the general devastation. The scent of war here is a potent, unforgettable blend, the familiar, heavy diesel, now mixed with the sharp, briny tang of salt from the ocean, and the sickening, metallic odor of blood, seeping into the sand, saturating the very air you breathe. It clings to your clothes, to your hair, an inescapable reminder of where you are. The mud on the beach is not merely dirt. It is a heavy, tenacious sludge, churned by countless vehicles and footsteps, gripping at your tires, threatening to swallow your truck whole with every turn of the wheel. You fight the steering, the powerful engine roaring its defiance, but the resistance is constant, a physical manifestation of the struggle. On the distant horizon, miles away, the sky glows a deep, ominous red, a fiery pulse that signals the incessant artillery bombardments farther inland, where the real battle still rages. A corporal, his face streaked with grime, his voice raw from constant shouting, leans into your open window, his words urgent, desperate. Move it, the front eats faster than we can feed it. His eyes hold a silent plea, a shared understanding of the relentless hunger of combat, the insatiable demand for supplies. And you know, with a clarity that cuts through the chaos, that each wooden crate of ammunition, each dented jerry can of fuel strapped down in the bed of your truck, means life, a chance for survival, somewhere ahead in that red glow. You are not just carrying cargo, you are carrying hope, sustenance, and the very means for others to fight. That night, as the engines of countless trucks settle into a low, continuous hum, they sound like a strange, mechanical lullaby. It's not a song of peace, but the lullaby of profound exhaustion, of men pushed beyond their limits, yet still moving, still breathing, still driving. In your small, mud-stained notebook, a private record of these impossible days, you scrawl a single, stark sentence, a quiet truth that resonates deep within you. We are the veins of this beast, Your battle here on the supply road has no bullets, no direct firefights, only the relentless turning of wheels, the ceaseless falling of rain, and the immeasurable distance of the miles stretching out, always, endlessly, before you. As July bled into August, a new, desperate urgency gripped the Allied command. General Patton's Third Army, a formidable, surging force, had outpaced its own supply lines, stretching them thin as a fragile thread. The front, now deep within France, was quite literally running on fumes. Its powerful tanks and artillery pieces rendered useless without the constant flow of fuel and ammunition. Headquarters, faced with a strategic nightmare, issued an almost impossible order: 10,000 tons of supplies per day, every single day, or the entire offensive. The very momentum of the war would grind to a catastrophic halt. This was not merely a request. It was a demand for a miracle. And that miracle, you would soon discover, would be delivered by your hands. A new symbol appeared on your truck, painted with stark, bold strokes, a brilliant red circle, unmistakable against the drab olive drab paint. With this mark, the legendary Red Ball Express was born, transforming your daily grind into a critical, high-stakes mission. New rules, stringent and unforgiving, were instantly put into effect. Your speed was capped at a maximum of 25 miles per hour, a deliberate, disciplined crawl designed to prevent accidents and ensure the integrity of the convoy. Maintaining a precise 60-yard spacing between trucks became paramount, a ballet of heavy machinery moving in unison. There was to be no stopping, not for a quick break, not for a moment of rest, unless absolutely unavoidable. No passing, ensuring a steady, predictable flow. And most crucially, still no lights, maintaining the shroud of blackout conditions. Even in daylight, when the convoy stretched so far, it resembled a slow, powerful river of muted green. To combat the crushing fatigue, each truck was assigned 2 drivers, a grim necessity for the continuous operation. While one of you wrestled with the wheel, battling the treacherous roads and the encroaching sleep, the other would attempt to snatch precious moments of rest. Sleeping in motion, jostled by every bump and turn, a restless, fitful sleep that never truly refreshed. In the deep, oppressive blackness of night, those 2 faint cat eyes on your truck, the only visible light, glowed like dying stars, guiding you through the endless ribbon of road, a fragile thread connecting you to the truck ahead and the one behind. You become part of a monstrous, living chain, each link relying on the next. MPs, military police, were now stationed at every major intersection, their presence a stark reminder of the critical importance of your mission. Their crisp salutes a silent acknowledgement of the lifeblood you carried. Every bridge you crossed, every creaking timber beneath your heavy wheels, felt like a heartbeat of the war itself. A moment of profound vulnerability and vital progress. You recall Davis, your fellow driver, whispering beside you in the cab, his voice low with awe and the weight of it all. We're driving the lifeblood of victory. Man, this isn't just fuel, it's freedom. And as you grip the steering wheel, the hum of the engine a constant companion, you understood. When gasoline became blood, when every gallon meant the difference between advance and retreat, between life and death. You, the truckers of the Red Ball Express, became the very heart of the war, pumping life into the veins of an army pushing towards its destiny. the French countryside, once a tableau of picturesque villages and verdant fields, quickly began to collapse under the relentless, crushing weight of the Red Ball Express, the passage of thousands of heavy wheels, day in and day out, transformed the very earth. Roads, once quaint and winding, became deeply cratered, pockmarked with ruts and holes that threatened to tear out axles with every impact. Bridges, already fragile from years of neglect or recent combat, shattered beneath the strain, their timbers groaning, sometimes collapsing, forcing detours through even rougher terrain. Rivers, swollen by the autumn rains, often overran their banks, turning once dry paths into treacherous, muddy crossings. Yet, through it all, you drove. The convoys, vast and seemingly endless, stretched for miles, a continuous serpent of steel and flesh snaking across the ravaged landscape. Headlights, still smothered under the strict blackout orders, offered no solace, forcing you to rely on instinct, the faint glow of distant cat eyes, and the sheer momentum of the column. Your steering wheel, once a simple tool, became an extension of your body, its rough surface cutting into your blistered palms, leaving them raw and aching. The wipers, already exhausted, groaned a ceaseless protest against the endless cascade of mud and rain splattering across the windshield, their rhythmic sweep a monotonous soundtrack to your waking nightmare. Every single stop, even for a moment, carried a chilling risk of disaster. The truck behind you, following too closely, its driver half asleep, might simply crush you if you braked for too long. A chilling thought that kept your foot hovering over the pedal. Meals became a forgotten luxury, replaced by cold rations, flavorless and hard, chewed between gear shifts, a desperate attempt to stoke the dying embers of energy within you. A can of sea rations, perhaps a stale biscuit, consumed without thought, merely fuel for the machine that was your body. The soundtrack to this grueling existence was a relentless symphony of the elements and the machines, the distant rumble of thunder, the ever-present, throbbing roar of the engines, and the quiet, almost imperceptible moans of men half asleep at the wheel, their heads lolling, their eyes heavy-lidded, fighting a losing battle against the encroaching fog of exhaustion. You often found yourself drifting, your mind playing tricks, seeing shapes in the dark, hearing voices in the static of the radio. You recall a moment of profound weariness, the sheer monotony of it all pressing down on you like the weight of the truck itself. You scrawled in your notebook, the pen struggling against the damp paper, a single sentence that captured the essence of your existence. We're not moving forward, we're orbiting the war. It felt like an endless, cyclical motion, a gravitational pull that kept you in its thrall, a satellite forever circling the brutal heart of the conflict, never truly reaching it, never truly escaping it. You weren't chasing victory in those long, dark hours. You were racing against collapse, against the breakdown of the machines, against the breakdown of the men. A desperate, silent struggle to simply keep the wheels turning, to ensure the next mile was covered, no matter the cost to your body, your mind, or your very soul. The road, always the road, stretched out like an unending challenge, and you, the quiet, tireless driver, were bound to its relentless demand. The night air was a heavy shroud, thick with the dampness of the forest and the lingering scent of pine needles. When the convoy abruptly halted, midnight, you remember the sudden jolt as the truck ahead braked, the powerful engine groaning to a stop, and you mirrored its movement, the brakes hissing their protest. A profound silence descended, broken only by the persistent drip of rain from the dense canopy above and the rhythmic tick, tick, tick of cooling engines. No one spoke. The usual murmurs and quiet jokes were swallowed by the oppressive darkness, a collective tension, palpable and chilling, permeated the air, a silent alarm ringing in your gut. Then, from somewhere ahead in the inky blackness, a sound ripped through the rain-soaked quiet, the horrifying, unmistakable scream of an MG-42 machine gun, its rapid-fire bursts tearing at the fabric of the night. It was a sound you had only heard in the distance, a brutal symphony played by others on a far-off stage. Now, it was terrifyingly close, echoing through the trees, a cold, sharp blade slicing through your fragile sense of security. Your heart leaped into your throat, hammering against your ribs with a frantic, desperate rhythm. Panic, raw and visceral, threatened to consume you. There was no infantry nearby, no familiar grunt platoons to provide cover, no soldiers trained for this kind of sudden, close-quarters combat. There was only you and the other truckers, armed with little more than your standard-issue M1 Garand rifles and an abundance of fear. You were supply men, drivers, not frontline fighters. Yet here you were, thrust into the grim reality of a battlefield. Instinct, primal and overwhelming, took over. You grabbed your M1, its cold steel reassuring in your trembling hands, fumbling for the clip of ammunition. Your mind screamed with disbelief, with terror. But your body moved, driven by a survival impulse. You shoved the door open, the sound unnaturally loud in the suddenly silent night between bursts, and peered into the darkness. A faint flash of muzzle fire, bright against the black, gave away the enemy's position. You raised your rifle, your arm surprisingly steady despite the violent tremor in your chest, and fired a few rounds towards the flash. The recoil a sharp, physical punch against your shoulder. The smell of burnt gunpowder, sharp and acrid, mingled with the damp earth and diesel. The firefight, mercifully, lasted only seconds. A brief, terrifying explosion of violence in the quiet woods. Then, as abruptly as it began, it ceased. Only the steady patter of the rain, the lingering scent of smoke, and a profound, ringing silence remained, heavy with unspoken questions. Your breath came in ragged gasps, your body trembling from the sudden adrenaline dump. A chilling sight pierced the darkness, a truck, one of your own, burned in a ditch ahead, its metal shell consumed by angry flames that licked greedily at the rain-soaked trees. The brilliant red circle, once a symbol of purpose, now glowed like a malevolent eye in the inferno. Then, the radio crackled to life, its static-laced voice cutting through the silence, its message stark and brutal. Keep moving. Do not stop for the dead. The words were a gut punch, a cold, hard reminder of the war's relentless, unfeeling demand. On the supply road, you realized with a sickening clarity, there was no rear line. There was only the next mile, and the next, an endless, dangerous journey where the front could, and often did, appear anywhere, at any time, in the most unexpected and terrifying of ways. The mornings brought a routine that felt both familiar and strangely surreal. You would arrive at the designated drop points, often still under the echo of distant artillery, the low rumble a constant, unsettling backdrop to your work. Here, in the gray light of dawn, You would unload the lifeblood of the war drum after drum of fuel, crates of ammunition, medical supplies, and rations. Each item was handled with a quiet efficiency, the knowledge of its purpose weighing heavily on your hands. The air would be thick with the smell of exhaust and the faint metallic tang of expended shells from a previous night's exchange. It was a tangible contribution, a direct link between your effort and the fighting men who waited, weary but resolute, for what you brought. But the nights, the long, dark nights, brought a different, far heavier cargo. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in somber hues, you would reload your trucks, not with fresh supplies, but with the broken, the wounded, the bandaged, the silent, their faces pale in the dim light of lanterns or flashlights, would be carefully lifted onto the beds of your vehicles, often laid out on makeshift stretchers. The air, which had smelled of diesel and dust in the morning, now filled with the sharp, clinical scent of morphine, the coppery tang of fresh and drying blood, and the pervasive, underlying smell of diesel. A strange and unsettling blend that would forever be etched into your memory. You would see their eyes, sometimes wide with pain, sometimes distant with shock, sometimes simply closed in a desperate search for oblivion. You remember one night, a young soldier, his face ghost white, whispered through lips cracked with thirst, "Are we winning?" You couldn't speak, your throat tight with emotion. So you simply nodded, a silent affirmation of hope, a small lie, perhaps, but one he needed to hear. In those moments, your truck was more than a vehicle. It was a makeshift ambulance, a silent confessional for men facing their mortality, and sometimes a final, temporary coffin carrying those who had given their last breath. A fleeting memory comes to mind of a tank crew, their faces smudged with oil and grime, offering a tired, heartfelt salute as you passed. One of them shouting, "Without you boys, we'd be stuck in the mud." Their gratitude was a quiet balm, a rare acknowledgement of your vital, dangerous work. The emotional weight of carrying the wounded was immense. You began to see the trucks, not just as machines, but as vessels of memory and human experience. Men, you noticed, started naming their vehicles, giving them feminine names like Betty or Daisy, or robust, defiant names like Ironclad or Vanguard. It was a peculiar, tender ritual, as if by naming them, by imbuing them with a personality, they could somehow keep them and themselves alive through the chaos. These machines, scarred and mud-splattered, became silent witnesses, carrying not just fuel and ammunition, but the whispered fears, the fading hopes, and the profound, indelible memories of the war. They didn't just carry the supplies that fueled the fight. They carried the war's memories, its sorrows, and its quiet triumphs home. One arduous, painful mile at a time. The road, in those moments, felt like a living artery, pulsing with both life and the grim reality of impending death. The days blurred into an indistinguishable stream, a relentless 82-day cycle of motion, punctuated by neither true silence nor stillness, nor the deep, restorative sleep your body craved. The constant vibration of the engine, the jarring bumps of the cratered roads, the incessant roar of the wind and rain against the cab, it all seeped into your very being, a low, persistent thrum beneath your skin. The trucks, those resilient beasts of burden, began to show the brutal strain of their impossible task. Tie rods, vital for steering control, bent and twisted into grotesque shapes. Suspensions, designed for resilience, cracked under the ceaseless pounding. Tires, once robust, were shredded by shrapnel, sharp rocks, and the sheer friction of thousands of miles on unforgiving terrain. Below the heavy rumble of the convoy, the unsung heroes, the mechanics, toiled relentlessly. You would see them, often late into the night, crawling beneath the hulking vehicles in the driving rain, their faces illuminated by the flickering, weak glow of lantern light, welding sparks flying into the wet darkness. They were magicians, coaxing life back into broken steel, improvising repairs with whatever meager parts they could salvage. Despite their heroic efforts, the numbers were grim at any given time. Nearly 40% of the Red Ball Express vehicles were deemed unfit to drive, crippled by mechanical failure or battle damage. Yet, miraculously, the convoy still departed, a testament to sheer willpower and a desperate commitment to duty. Spare parts were scavenged, engines swapped, and broken trucks were somehow willed back onto the road. The human cost was equally stark. Coffee, brewed thick as tar and often gone cold before you could finish it, became a lifeline, a bitter fuel for weary souls. Cigarettes, often soaked through by the incessant rain, were still smoked, their glowing embers a tiny defiance against the gloom. A brief moment of solace. You heard the hushed whispers of drivers collapsing at the wheel, their hearts simply giving out from the strain, their engines still running, oblivious, carrying their final, silent cargo. It was a terrifying thought, a constant shadow lurking at the edge of your consciousness, that one day you too might simply cease, your body unable to carry on, even as the machine you commanded continued its relentless march. At night, looking up from below, or perhaps imagining the view from an aircraft high above, the convoy would have appeared as a glowing serpent of fire, stretching for miles across the darkened landscape. A surreal, almost beautiful spectacle of relentless purpose. It was a sight that belied the gritty, exhausting, and often brutal reality within each truck. You scrawled in your worn notebook, the words capturing the profound paradox of your existence. They call it logistics, but it feels like survival. It was more than just moving materiel. It was a daily, hourly battle against the elements, against the enemy, against your own failing strength. Machines wore out, men broke down, their bodies and minds pushed to the absolute breaking point. Yet, through it all, only a profound sense of duty, a silent, unspoken pledge to the men at the front, kept the wheels rolling, kept the serpent of fire moving through the endless, harrowing night. As the crisp breath of autumn began to sweep across the weary landscape, bringing with it a subtle shift in the light and a hint of approaching winter, a profound change rippled through the Red Ball Express. News filtered down through the ranks the port of Antwerp. A vital logistical hub had finally been opened. The railways, shattered by earlier fighting, were beginning to breathe again, slowly but surely taking on the immense burden of supply. The impossible, relentless pace of the Red Ball Express was no longer the sole lifeline. Orders came down. Quiet but definitive, the Red Ball would wind down. A collective sigh, one of both relief and a strange, hollow sadness, seemed to pass through the company. The numbers were staggering, a testament to the impossible task you and your fellow drivers had accomplished. 400,000 tons of supplies delivered in just 82 days. An impossible number, made devastatingly real by your blistered hands, your aching backs, and your sleepless nights. The sheer scale of what you had achieved, against all odds, was almost incomprehensible. But with the winding down came dispersal. Some men were reassigned, sent to other units, their faces disappearing into the swirling currents of the war. Others simply vanished, swallowed by the crushing fatigue that had accumulated over months, or disciplined for minor infractions that, under normal circumstances, would have been overlooked. The quiet bonds forged in the furnace of shared hardship began to loosen, fraying at the edges. The mess tent, once a boisterous hub of tired camaraderie, now smelled of stale coffee and dust, the lively banter replaced by a hushed quiet. Laughter, when it occurred, sounded hollow, echoing in the suddenly too large space. You overheard someone, a driver whose name you couldn't quite place, murmur wistfully, "They won't write books about us. Not really. But they'll drive on our roads. They'll use the paths we cut." It was a sentiment that resonated deep within you, a quiet acceptance of your role as the unseen foundation, the unsung heroes. You found yourself staring at the mud-stained map pinned to the wall of the operations tent, its intricate lines and routes, once so vivid and vital, now seeming to fade before your eyes. The red line marking the red ball route, the veins of victory you had so meticulously carved across France, felt less like a surging river of life and more like a ghost, a fading echo of an immense, arduous journey. The war, though not yet entirely over, was slowing down, finding new rhythms, new routes. And as it slowed, the thunderous roar of the Red Ball Express, the ceaseless grind of gears and the hum of countless engines, began to recede, leaving behind only the quiet echoes of your passage, a silent testament to the impossible task you had completed. Moving through the memory, a quiet hum in the vast, emptying spaces of the war-torn land. The crisp, biting air of a November frost brought with it the quiet, almost solemn closure of an era. Your final convoy, a smaller, more reflective procession, headed east, not laden with ammunition or fuel, but with blankets and medicine, the gentler provisions for a world slowly healing. As your truck rumbled through the small, shell-shocked villages, you saw the faces of the villagers, no longer stoic with fear, but often waving, a tentative, hopeful gesture. The war, you sensed, was finally ending. The heavy burden slowly lifting, but the road, you knew, would remain, carved into the land and into your very soul. Davis, your steadfast companion on countless runs, grinned, a genuine, unburdened smile that seemed to erase the fatigue from his eyes. "After this," he declared, "I'm driving civilian. A nice, quiet delivery route. Maybe no mud, no blackout, just a paved road and a hot cup of coffee." You smiled back, a warmth spreading through you that you hadn't felt in months. Your own path lay elsewhere, a quiet determination forming in your mind. "I'll build engines," you found yourself saying, the words surprising even you. "Someone has to make them better, stronger, for whatever comes next." The memory of the breakdowns, The constant struggle to keep the machines alive fueled this new aspiration. You look down at your truck, a faithful, mud-caked friend, the once vibrant red circle, the proud emblem of the Red Ball Express, had faded over the grueling months. Weathered by countless storms and the relentless sun, yet, in the soft, diffused light of the morning mist, it still seemed to glow faintly, a spectral mark of an impossible journey completed, a silent badge of honor. You drove the last few miles, the familiar rumble of the engine, a comforting presence, before pulling into the final depot, the place where this chapter of your life would close. With a deep, almost reverent breath, you parked the engine, switched it off, and then you simply sat, listening. The powerful machinery, after so many months of constant motion, slowly cooled, its metal contracting with soft clicks and groans, a sound like a giant heart slowing its beat, settling into a well-earned rest. The silence that followed was profound, deeper and more complete than any you had known since stepping foot on this war-torn continent. The Red Ball Express had stopped, its immense task accomplished, its legend quietly cemented in the annals of logistics. But the road, you realized as you finally stepped out of the cab, never truly did stop. It kept rolling, not just through the dust and dreams of countless men, but through memory, a silent, unseen journey that would continue within you, shaping the person you would become. The road, in its own quiet way, was an eternal witness, carrying the echoes of every mile, every fear, every moment of quiet courage, a path that stretched out, endless and full of stories, long after the last truck had passed. In the soft darkness, a faint tremor begins, a low, persistent hum that speaks of distant engines and endless journeys. It's the subtle vibration of a world caught in a profound and terrible fire. A conflagration that raged from 1939 to 1945, consuming nations, tearing through landscapes and reshaping the very fabric of human existence. But tonight, you are not on the front lines. Amidst the deafening explosions and frantic cries of battle, instead, you are placed gently, almost imperceptibly, behind the worn steering wheel of a heavy machine, feeling the steady thrum of its powerful engine beneath you, a constant, reassuring beat. The world burned, yes, but not with a fire that rain could extinguish. It was a fire of ideology, of ambition, of fear, and of a relentless will to survive. And in that vast, consuming inferno, countless stories unfolded, many overshadowed by the more dramatic narratives of combat. You are here to listen to one of those quieter, yet profoundly vital tales. It is the story of those who were never celebrated in song, whose names were rarely etched into the monuments of glory, but whose tireless dedication was the very pulse of the conflict. Imagine yourself as one of them now, a nameless individual, perhaps obscured by the pervasive dust of countless miles. A fine film clinging to your skin, a faint scent of oil in the air, a silent, ever-present fear, a cold companion in the pit of your stomach. Yet, through it all, you drive. You are a crucial, living conduit in the vast, complex circulatory system of the U.S. Army. A lifeline unspooling across continents, through terrain that defies imagination and challenges every fiber of your being. Your journey takes you through blood-soaked earth and thick, clinging mud, over roads that are often little more than churned-up tracks. The world outside your small cabin is a blur of motion, a fleeting glimpse of devastation and desperate effort. You don't wield a rifle. You don't aim artillery. You don't launch rockets. Your hands are firmly on the steering wheel, your foot on the accelerator, your gaze fixed on the endless stretch of road ahead. Your mission is simpler, yet infinitely more complex. You deliver the very instruments of war, the food that sustains the fighting spirit, the fuel that keeps the machines running, the medical supplies that mend broken bodies. Picture the stark, almost unbearable reality if you and others like you were to stop. If these convoys were to falter, entire armies would face the terrifying specter of starvation. The soldiers on the front, already exposed to the brutal elements, would freeze in the biting cold without fuel for their heaters and proper clothing. Their very will to fight, their ability to stand against the relentless enemy, would collapse under the weight of deprivation. You carry this truth, this heavy responsibility, with every mile you cover, every shift of the gear. These individuals, these quiet heroes, were not the soldiers who garnered medals for valor on the battlefield, not the pilots who soared through the skies in daring dogfights, nor the sailors who braved the treacherous seas. No, they were the heartbeat of the war, a steady, rhythmic pulse that kept everything moving, kept hope alive, and ultimately kept the armies fighting. Their glory was not in grand gestures, but in relentless perseverance, in the simple, profound act of keeping the wheels turning, come what may. You feel the weight of that responsibility, the silent, unwavering commitment that defined their every waking hour, every sleepless night. The engine hums, a low, constant murmur, a lullaby of purpose in a world gone mad. You are an unsung hero, and in this quiet moment, you are remembered. As the hum of that distant engine fades gently, you feel a shift in the air, a different kind of energy beginning to stir. Your mind drifts now, not to the roads themselves, but to the very genesis of these steel giants, these mechanical beasts that became the lifeblood of a nation at war. You are transported, not to the quiet solitude of a driver's cabin, but to the bustling, cacophonous heart of America's industrial might, a place where metal and will converged. The Ordnance Corps, the very brain of military supply, understood with chilling clarity that traditional civilian vehicles, however robust, would simply not suffice for the brutal demands of global conflict. They needed machines that were more than just transportation. They needed metal titans that could climb impossible hills, ford swift rivers without faltering, and withstand the terrifying shrapnel of an exploding shell. Their specifications were precise, demanding vehicles that were as much instruments of war as any tank or cannon, designed not for comfort, but for absolute, unyielding survival and utility, built to face the harshest realities imaginable. Imagine the atmosphere now, as you stand on the factory floor, a silent observer in this whirlwind of creation. America's great civilian companies, names synonymous with everyday life: Dodge, GMC, Ford, Chevrolet, were not merely asked, but drafted into this colossal war effort. Their peacetime pursuits, their meticulous craft of automobiles for families and farms, were suddenly dramatically redirected. Their assembly lines, once turning out sleek sedans and practical pickups, were now dedicated entirely to the unforgiving demands of military production, a transformation both swift and profound. The factory lights, high above on the cavernous ceilings, burned with an unyielding intensity, not for 8 hours or 10, but all night long, every night, casting long, dancing shadows across the vast spaces. These were not mere artificial illuminations, they were beacons of a nation's commitment, glowing testament to an entire country working tirelessly, without pause. The relentless clang of hammers, the rhythmic shriek of metal being shaped, the ceaseless whir of machinery. It wasn't just noise. It was a second heartbeat, a powerful, pulsating rhythm for America. A nation awakening to its monumental task, its industrial might focused on a singular purpose. Witness the transformation before your very eyes. Solid, unyielding steel, once destined for bridges or buildings, was now being forged into the very bones of war machines. Transformed into the chassis and frames that would bear immense weight and endure unimaginable stress. It felt almost alchemical, as if steel itself was transmuted into blood, flowing through the arteries of these mechanical giants, and the resilient, flexible rubber, drawn from distant plantations and crafted with precision, became the vanes, the tires, the hoses, the seals without which these mighty vehicles could not move, could not breathe, could not function. From the vibrant, noisy heart of Detroit, where the very concept of the automobile was honed and perfected, emerged a new kind of rhythm, a drumbeat of war. It was a rhythm of production, of innovation under pressure, of relentless effort. And from that pulsating, mechanical rhythm, a new archetype was born, an essential figure without whom the entire enterprise would stall the truck driver. You can almost feel the grease on your hands, smell the hot metal, and hear the metallic symphony of creation that heralded the birth of these vital war machines, and with them, the quiet, unwavering commitment of those who would guide them through the storm. This was more than manufacturing. It was the forging of an unbreakable will, piece by precise piece, a relentless, powerful genesis. You shift in your comfortable spot, the sounds of the bustling factory floor gently receding, replaced by a lighter, more agile hum. Your mind drifts now to a singular, iconic image, a vehicle that became not just a machine, but a symbol, a companion, a friend to millions. You are envisioning the Jeep small, undeniably fast, and with a spirit that seemed utterly unstoppable. It wasn't just a vehicle. It possessed a character all its own, born from necessity and forged in the crucible of war, a triumph of ingenious design. Imagine its silhouette against a misty dawn, or perhaps the stark backdrop of a desert landscape, its simple lines hinting at its utilitarian purpose. Its unadorned form belied its incredible versatility. This humble, open-topped marvel was tasked with an astonishing array of duties, becoming an indispensable part of daily life and death on the front lines. You can see it now, bouncing over rough terrain, carrying the wounded, their faces pale, their hopes sometimes flickering to makeshift aid stations. It carried precious ammunition, each box a promise of defense or attack, ensuring the fight could continue. It delivered mail, those vital scraps of paper from home, connecting soldiers to the distant lives they fought for, offering fleeting moments of solace or sorrow. And sometimes, with a heavy heart, it carried the dead their final journey a quiet testament to the war's grim toll. Even General Dwight D. Eisenhower, a man whose words carried immense weight and whose vision shaped the Allied victory, recognized its profound significance. He didn't just call it a useful tool. He hailed it as a decisive weapon. Think about that for a moment, a vehicle. Not a gun or a tank, but a utility vehicle, given the same weight as the most powerful instruments of combat, for the soldiers who relied on it daily. However, the description was far more personal, far more intimate. They called it a friend. Imagine the bond, the trust, the quiet reliance forged between a soldier and his jeep, a mechanical steed that rarely failed, always there, always ready, a silent confidant on the battlefields. Over 650,000 of these remarkable vehicles were ultimately built, each one rolling off the assembly lines, then into the chaos, and into the hearts of those who depended on them. Each Jeep, in its own way, became a soul on four wheels, carrying not just cargo, but the hopes, fears, and very lives of countless individuals. You can almost feel the vibrations as it clawed its way through deep, treacherous snowdrifts in winter, or churned relentlessly through the soft, shifting sands of distant deserts, pushing through the despair of impossible situations with an unwavering tenacity, its tiny engine roaring with determination. As the long, grueling day finally surrendered to the silent shroud of night, the Jeep offered its own peculiar comfort. Drivers, utterly exhausted by the endless demands of the road, would sometimes sleep right there, their bodies draped across the seats, their heads resting against the cold, unyielding curve of the steering wheel. In these moments of respite, you can imagine the soft, almost ghostly sound of the wind humming gently through the steel frame of the vehicle. A somber, soothing lullaby amidst the quiet desolation of war. It was a lullaby that spoke of endurance, of solitude, and of an unbreakable spirit that even the most desperate circumstances could not extinguish. The Jeep, then, was more than metal and rubber. It was a testament to resilience, a quiet confidant on the battlefields of the world. You let the image of the agile Jeep gently fade, replaced now by something heavier, more robust, a true beast of burden built for an entirely different kind of relentless service. Your mind's eye conjures the formidable Dodge WC series of trucks, vehicles that represented a significant evolution in military design. These weren't merely adapted civilian models. They were the very first all-military design trucks, conceived from the ground up to meet the crushing demands of a global war. They became, almost instantly, the Army's most trusted and indispensable workhorses, their reliability a comfort in a world of chaos. Imagine their sturdy, uncompromising presence, a powerful engine under the hood, a resilient chassis, and a no-nonsense design built for endurance above all else. The WC series was a master of adaptation, a true chameleon of logistics, with the same fundamental bones, the same chassis, engine, and basic structure. It could be swiftly configured for a myriad of essential roles. One moment, it served as a vital ambulance, its interior hastily converted to cradle the wounded, rushing them away from the chaos towards a chance at healing. The next, it might be a command car, carrying officers and crucial intelligence across dangerous landscapes, a mobile nerve center for tactical operations. Or perhaps, most commonly, it was a rugged weapons carrier, ferrying machine guns, ammunition, and other critical gear to the very edge of the front lines, directly into the hands of those who needed it most. Each iteration, each roll, bore the same scent of grease, the same patina of dirt, the same unwavering commitment to duty. Over 255,000 of these tireless machines were brought into existence, each one a testament to American manufacturing prowess and military foresight. And with each one came a distinct, almost primal odor, a scent that clung to the very essence of the war effort. You can almost catch a whiff now, the acrid tang of grease, clinging to every moving part, the faint, metallic scent of fear, a constant, unspoken companion to the men who drove them, and the unmistakable, biting aroma of burnt rubber, a testament to countless miles, sudden stops, and the relentless strain placed upon these tireless engines. The men who sat behind the wheel of these Dodge WCs understood a profound and chilling truth that few others comprehended with such clarity. They knew, deep in their bones, that their truck was more than just a machine. It was a link, a vital, irreplaceable connection in a chain stretched taut to its breaking point. If their truck were to falter, to break down, to fall victim to enemy fire or mechanical failure, the supply line, that fragile thread connecting the front to the rear, would snap. And a broken line, in the brutal calculus of war, meant certain disaster, possibly even death, for those depending on it. So, they drove through the earth-shattering chaos of explosions, the ground vibrating beneath their tires, the air thick with the acrid smell of cordite and pulverized earth. They drove with a silent, desperate prayer echoing in their hearts, a plea that the sturdy engine beneath them, a symphony of pistons and gears, would outlast the long, terrifying night. Their motivation wasn't the promise of accolades or the dream of parades. There were no gleaming medals waiting for them, no cheering crowds. Their reward was the persistent, comforting hum of the motor, a mechanical heartbeat that reassured them their vital mission was continuing. Their constant companion was the war's cold breath on their necks, a chilling reminder of the ever-present danger, pushing them onward, mile after relentless mile. In the quiet resilience of the Dodge WC, you feel the unwavering spirit of those who embrace duty without the need for glory, a constant, enduring commitment. Allow the sturdy, reliable presence of the Dodge WC to recede, and in its place, feel the immense, powerful rumble of something even larger, something truly monumental in the landscape of military logistics. Your journey now leads you to the legendary GMC CCKW, affectionately known by countless soldiers as the Deuce and a Half. This behemoth was not merely a truck. It was the veritable backbone of America's entire logistics operation. A colossal force that moved mountains of supplies and men across the globe. A tireless engine of progress. Imagine its sheer scale capable of carrying 2.5 tons of cargo, a load that represented grit, sweat, and thunder. This vehicle was a testament to raw power and unyielding resilience. Its massive tires, its towering presence, its powerful engine all conspired to create a machine that could seemingly conquer any obstacle. You can almost feel the vibrations of its engine, a deep, resonating thrum that speaks of immense strength and tireless effort, a rhythm of relentless, unwavering progress. But among its many iterations, one version stands out, a marvel of wartime engineering that truly defied expectations. Envision the DUKW variant, often pronounced duck, a fascinating amphibious vehicle that seemed to blur the lines between land and sea. Picture it lumbering ashore, directly from the tumultuous waves of the ocean. This was a vehicle that could swim, its sturdy hull displacing water with surprising grace, navigating choppy seas with determination. And once it hit land, its ingenuity didn't stop there. From within its cabin, the driver could, with a simple flick of a switch, adjust its tire pressure, allowing it to transition seamlessly from soft, yielding sand to hard, unyielding pavement. You can almost hear the splash, the grind of gears, the hiss of air as it adapted to its environment. Imagine the sheer audacity of this machine, roaring over the waves, a beacon of hope against the chaos of battle. Picture the DUKWs on D-Day, churning through the surf and straight off the beaches of Normandy, carrying not just supplies, but the very spirit of the invasion, the promise of liberation. Each tire, filled with air and reinforced with courage, carried an incalculable weight, the dreams of freedom, the desperate need for provisions, the tools to push back the tide of tyranny. You are there, feeling the salty spray on your face, the roar of the engine battling the crash of the waves, a testament to raw, unyielding will. The truth is, few remember the names of the individual drivers who piloted these magnificent machines, who guided the Deuce and a Half through treacherous terrain and storm-tossed waters. Their personal stories, their quiet acts of heroism, are largely lost to the sands of time. Yet, if you listen closely, if you allow yourself to be transported to those windswept beaches, you might still hear it, the faint, spectral whisper of the engine, echoing on the shore. It's a sound that transcends the decades, a ghostly yet powerful reminder of the life it carried, the battles it supported, the hope it delivered. That whisper, that persistent mechanical thrum, was the sound of life itself, fighting its way through the very heart of hell. An unsung symphony of survival and purpose. As the distant hum of the Deuce and a Half fades, replaced by the persistent, rhythmic drone of a vast, moving force, your mind is drawn to a pivotal moment in the war's relentless march. You are now positioned along a stretch of road, dusty and worn, in the wake of the D-Day landings. Here, an extraordinary logistical feat was born from sheer necessity and unwavering determination, the Red Ball Express. This wasn't merely a convoy. It was an endless artery, a pulsating lifeline that stretched for hundreds of miles, feeding the hungry front lines of the Allied advance, a testament to human endurance and ingenuity. Imagine the scene: a continuous stream of trucks, bumper to bumper, stretching as far as the eye can see and beyond. They moved with an almost hypnotic rhythm, a river of steel and rubber, flowing day and night without pause. The vast majority of these drivers, the unsung heroes of this incredible endeavor, were African American soldiers. They faced not only the perils of the war, but also the grinding prejudice of their time. Yet they performed their duties with a quiet resilience that defied all obstacles. Day and night, they drove, often with their headlights off in the pre-dawn darkness or moonless nights to avoid detection by enemy aircraft, navigating treacherous roads with only the faintest glow or their instincts to guide them. Each trip was a grueling marathon, stretching for about 435 miles, a journey repeated endlessly, a testament to relentless will. The roads themselves were a testament to the brutal demands of this operation. You can almost see them now lined with the tragic skeletal remains of broken-down trucks. Wrecks that had fallen victim to fatigue, mechanical failure, or enemy fire. These shattered husks were stark reminders of the ever-present danger, the high cost of a moment's lapse. Yet, despite these grim warnings, the convoys kept moving. The drivers, fueled by endless cups of bitter coffee and the raw surge of adrenaline, pushed themselves to the very limits of human endurance. One mistake, one miscalculation, one delay, and the consequence was unthinkable starvation for thousands of soldiers desperately waiting at the front. A chilling, ever-present threat. And yet, amidst this immense pressure, this constant dance with exhaustion and peril, humanity found a way to surface. You can almost hear them now, the bursts of laughter, echoing in the quiet stretches between engines, a release of tension, a bond forged in shared hardship. You hear their curses, muttered under their breath or shouted in frustration, a testament to the overwhelming challenges they faced. Most importantly, you hear them call each other brother, a term of endearment and profound solidarity that transcended rank and race, creating a powerful, unspoken pact among these brave men, united by their shared mission. History, in its broad strokes, often remembers the names of the generals, the architects of grand strategy and sweeping campaigns. But on those long, dark nights, along those endless, dangerous roads, it was these tireless drivers of the Red Ball Express who were the true saviors. It was their unwavering commitment, their relentless propulsion forward, that delivered the supplies, the fuel, the food, and the ammunition that allowed the Allied forces to push eastward. It was their sacrifice and their indomitable will that ultimately allowed Paris to be liberated. A city brought back from the brink, its freedom secured by the quiet, ceaseless rumble of countless trucks. In their quiet, collective effort, you witness the extraordinary power of determined will, a vital, pulsing artery of war. As the rhythmic hum of the Red Ball Express fades into the distance, carrying with it the echoes of determination, you are transported now to a landscape of stark, unforgiving beauty and unimaginable hardship. Your mind travels east, far across the vast expanse of the world, to the frozen, silent roads of Soviet Russia. Here, a different kind of war was waged, one against not only an enemy, but against the brutal, relentless elements of winter. And in this desolate, icy realm, a new hero emerged, an unlikely emissary of alliance and resilience, the Studebaker US-6 truck, a quiet giant against the snow. Imagine the scene: a lone Studebaker, or perhaps a small convoy, rumbling persistently across endless stretches of ice and snow, its tires crunching softly on the frozen crust, a faint vapor trailing from its exhaust. Its journey was epic, a testament to its robust engineering and the unwavering spirit of those who drove it. From the remote, ice-bound harbors of Alaska, where the Lend-Lease aid began its treacherous voyage, to the distant, historic city of Arkhangelsk in Russia, these trucks became vital links in a chain that spanned continents and ideologies, connecting disparate worlds with steel. You feel the biting cold, the profound silence broken only by the engine's steady drone. Even Joseph Stalin, the iron-fisted leader of the Soviet Union, a man not known for effusive praise, acknowledged its immense value. He famously called the Studebaker US-6 the most precious gift from America. Think of the significance of that statement. Coming from such a source, a testament to the absolute necessity and profound impact these trucks had on the Eastern Front. A theater of war unparalleled in its scale and savagery, a true lifeline for millions. Like its American counterparts, the Studebaker was a tireless workhorse. Carrying an immense and varied cargo, it hauled precious shells and vital ammunition, ensuring that Soviet artillery could continue to roar. It transported men, often cold, exhausted, and grim-faced, to their positions or away from the front, and sometimes, with a heavy, unspoken sorrow, it carried bodies the fallen, wrapped in canvas, their final journey a stark reminder of the war's immense cost. All this, through vast, drifting snows that seemed to swallow the world, through an oppressive silence broken only by the creak of ice and the growl of the engine, through a landscape that truly felt like hell frozen over. An astonishing 220,000 of these Studers, as they were affectionately called, survived the inferno of the Eastern Front. They traversed terrain that would break lesser machines, enduring temperatures that plunged far below 0 Fahrenheit, battling blizzards and unimaginable hardships. The Soviet drivers, stoic and hardy, developed a deep, almost spiritual connection with their American trucks. They gave them nicknames, personalizing these machines that often meant the difference between life and death. You can almost hear them, whispering prayers of gratitude and hope, treating their steel companions like saints, imbued with a sacred duty, a quiet reverence for the life they carried. This wasn't merely a transaction of goods. It was a profound act of alliance, forged not in diplomatic treaties or grand political gestures, but in the gritty reality of exhaust fumes and the painful sting of frostbite. It was an alliance cemented on frozen roads, under hostile skies, driven by the shared, desperate need to defeat a common enemy. The Studebaker US-6, in its quiet, relentless journey across the ice, became a powerful symbol of unity, a testament to what could be achieved when nations, despite their differences, united for a common, urgent cause. You feel the profound chill, the deep silence, and the unwavering resolve that define these epic journeys, a testament to an enduring spirit. As the chilling silence of the Russian plains slowly recedes from your mind, replaced by a deep, resonant rumble that vibrates through the very ground beneath you, your attention turns to a new class of vehicles. These were not the agile jeeps, nor the versatile deuce and halves, but truly immense machines, built with a singular, awe-inspiring purpose. You are now envisioning the Iron Giants, the massive trucks produced by companies like WWII, Mack, and Diamond T. These were not mere vehicles. They were engineering marvels, true monsters of the road, designed to tackle the heaviest, most formidable tasks of the war, embodying raw, untamed power. Imagine their sheer, overwhelming scale 6-wheeled, 12-ton beasts. Their engines a symphony of immense power and torque. Their frames were built of thick, reinforced steel, their components forged for unparalleled strength and durability. These were the titans of transport, tasked with burdens that would crush ordinary vehicles. They hauled entire sections of portable bridges, enabling armies to span rivers and ravines, pushing the advance forward, bridging gaps where no path existed. They towed gargantuan cannons, pulling these devastating instruments of war into position, their massive weight seemingly effortless behind the immense power of the truck, and with a grim, vital purpose. They pulled the broken back from the very edge of the battle, recovering wrecked tanks, downed aircraft, and other heavy equipment, salvaging what could be repaired, clearing the path for further movement, a testament to their brute force. You can almost feel the ground tremble beneath your feet as one of these giants passes. Their powerful engines didn't just run, they shook the earth. A deep, guttural roar that permeated the very air. Their exhaust plumes, thick and black, billowed into the dawn sky, sometimes blinding the sunrise, creating an almost apocalyptic tableau against the emerging light. It was a sight that spoke of immense industry, relentless power, and an unyielding will to overcome, a force of nature itself. The men who drove these colossal machines were often different from the younger, more eager drivers of the lighter trucks. They were frequently older, their faces etched with the lines of experience, their eyes holding a quiet, almost mournful wisdom. They were quieter, less prone to boisterous conversation, for they knew too much about loss. They had seen the brutal aftermath of battle up close, witnessed the devastation that their monstrous vehicles were often tasked to clean up. This proximity to the grim realities of war had a profound effect, leaving them with a sober, reflective demeanor. You can picture their hands, calloused and strong, perpetually stained with grease beneath their fingernails, a badge of their relentless labor. And in the quiet solitude of their immense cabs, often with only the roar of the engine for company, you can imagine them muttering silent prayers under their breath, prayers for safety, for guidance, for the swift end of the conflict, for the souls of those they saw. Every single turn of the massive wheel, every shift of the heavy gear lever, was an act of defiance against the ever-present threat of death, against the forces that sought to stop them. They moved with a deliberate, unyielding purpose. Their iron giants a powerful testament to human strength and perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. In their quiet, powerful journey, you sense the immense, enduring spirit of these often overlooked warriors, a profound strength found in the heart of steel. As the earth-shaking rumble of the iron giants slowly fades, a new, distinct image begins to materialize in your mind, one of even greater specialized power and a truly grim purpose. You are now envisioning the M26 Dragon Wagon, a vehicle whose very name conjures images of mythical beasts. Yet its purpose was chillingly real. This was the tank's last, desperate hope. The ultimate recovery vehicle on the brutal battlefields, a savior in the aftermath of destruction. Imagine this formidable machine a massive 10-ton wrecker, an articulated combination of a powerful truck and a heavy-duty trailer. Its sheer scale and engineering were designed to tackle the most catastrophic damage the war could inflict. Central to its immense capability were its colossal winches, capable of pulling an astonishing 20,000 pounds. Think of the immense forces at play as these winches, powered by the truck's mighty engine, slowly, painstakingly dragged steel corpses, the burned-out husks of tanks, the shattered remnants of armored vehicles off the very fields of battle. These were machines built not for attack, but for salvage, for retrieval, for facing the wreckage head-on, a testament to their raw, unyielding power. The men who drove these dragon wagons understood the somber nature of their work with a stark clarity. They were not delivering life. They were often dealing with the aftermath of death and destruction, with a dark, almost poetic sense of their role. They called themselves grave diggers of steel. You can almost hear the metallic clang, the creak of stressed chains, the groan of steel as they engage their powerful equipment, pulling twisted metal from the mud and mire, a grim ballet of salvage and recovery. Their arrival on the scene was often synonymous with profound devastation. When tanks burned, consumed by enemy fire and erupting in explosions, creating infernos of twisted metal and smoke, the dragon wagons came. They were the ones who would move in after the initial chaos, their crews braving residual enemy fire and hidden dangers to begin the grim work of recovery. When bridges collapsed, vital arteries severed, leaving armies stranded, these massive wreckers were not always there to rebuild, but sometimes to clear the path, to remove the impossible debris, to create temporary crossings out of sheer will and engineering might. They were the ones who cleared the way, making the impossible possible through brute force and unwavering resolve. The spirit of innovation and the relentless drive for bigger, stronger, more capable machines continued even as the war neared its end. Envision the mighty Sterling T-26 8x8, an even more monstrous recovery vehicle. Designed with 8 wheels for unparalleled traction and immense power. It was built, ready to roar into action, to conquer even greater challenges on the battlefield. Yet, in a testament to the unpredictable nature of war and the rapid pace of its conclusion, this formidable machine was ready for a conflict that ended just before it could truly be unleashed. It stands now as a quiet testament to the boundless ingenuity and the never-ending preparedness of those dark years. The drivers of these dragon wagons, these unsung grave diggers of steel, weren't chasing the ephemeral glow of glory. Their motivations were deeper, rooted in an unyielding sense of duty. They understood the profound importance of their work, recovering valuable equipment, clearing battlefields, and ensuring that no vital piece of the war effort was left behind. Their quiet, unwavering commitment to this grim but essential task speaks volumes about the human spirit's capacity for endurance and purpose. Even in the face of profound destruction, a silent, powerful heroism. As the echoes of the dragon wagons and the other mighty vehicles fade, a profound silence begins to settle. A quiet that is both mournful and full of a nascent hope. You are now standing on the precipice of a new era, looking back at the conclusion of the most devastating conflict the world had ever known. In 1945, the war finally ended. The thunder of artillery ceased. The planes no longer roared across the skies in anger, and the endless convoys that crisscrossed continents began to slow, then stop. But for the men who drove those trucks, a deep truth lingered. A quiet, almost poetic realization the roads never truly ended. They stretched on, symbolic pathways into an uncertain future, carrying the weight of memory. Imagine these men returning home, their uniforms perhaps still bearing the dust of distant lands, their faces marked by the journeys they had undertaken. Their hands, though no longer gripping a steering wheel for 20 hours a day, still carried a phantom tremor, a nervous energy that spoke of close calls, sleepless nights, and the constant vibration of powerful engines. Their dreams, when they came, were often filled with the roaring symphony of diesel, the relentless grind of gears, the endless ribbon of road unspooling before them, a haunting echo of their wartime experiences. The war may have ended, but its rhythm, its imprint, remained deeply etched within their very souls. They had crossed 6 continents, not with the detailed maps of a tourist, but with something far more profound, an unshakable faith in their mission and the intoxicating, life-sustaining fumes of diesel fuel. They had navigated through landscapes of unimaginable diversity and peril. relying on instinct, courage, and the unwavering reliability of their machines. From the mud-soaked fields of Europe to the frozen steppes of Russia, from the dusty plains of North Africa to the humid jungles of Asia, they had been everywhere the war demanded, carrying the essential weight of victory on their shoulders, or rather, on their wheels, a testament to their quiet perseverance. Now, decades later, you might stumble upon their trucks, rusting quietly in forgotten fields, tucked away in the back corners of old farms, or slowly dissolving into the earth in military junkyards. These are not just decaying machines. They are relics of survival, silent monuments to a time of immense challenge and extraordinary human resilience. Their steel bodies, once gleaming with purpose, are now consumed by the slow, inexorable march of rust. Their tires deflated, their engines cold. They stand as stoic witnesses to a chapter of history, waiting patiently for the wind and rain to reclaim them fully, their stories whispered by the elements. But in the deep stillness of a quiet night, when the world outside has hushed its ceaseless chatter, and a distant engine suddenly sparks to life, you might just hear it. It's said that if you listen very, very closely, in that brief moment, you can still hear them laugh, the phantom laughter of those unsung heroes, echoing across the decades. It's a laugh born of shared hardship, of camaraderie, of the profound, simple joy of having endured, a whisper from the past. Because they knew a fundamental truth, a truth that the grand narratives of war often forgot in their focus on battles and generals. If the trucks stopped, the world would have stopped too. Their quiet, relentless movement was the very pulse of the war, the unseen force that kept armies fed, armed, and fighting. Without them, the entire machinery of conflict would have ground to a halt. In their silent vigil, in the hum of a passing truck, in the quiet memory of their laughter, you are invited to remember the profound, enduring legacy of the truck drivers of World War II, the true steel backbone of a world at war. Their journey, in your mind, continues, a slow, flowing river of remembrance, carrying you gently into the quiet depths of the night.